This is the Volkswagen T-Roc, and until the smaller Taigun comes in, this is the most compact and affordable SUV in the Volkswagen lineup. Now the T-Roc isn't conventional by SUV standards. So what is it all about? Let's find out. So let's start with the first thing that isn't typically SUV about the T-Roc, and that is the design. It doesn't have those squared off looks or even that boxy shape. Heck, it doesn't even have the size to boast about. So does that mean it's not a good looking car? Far from it. All the typical SUV traits aside, the T-Roc is a fantastic looking car. The slim LED headlamps merge brilliantly with the chrome line grille. The massive air dam along with the brushed silver skid plate give it plenty of character. On the side, the large 17-inch wheels along with plenty of cladding all around means there is no mistaking the SUV intentions. Also, the pronounced hip area adds a lot of muscle to the overall design. The rear is where it's the least SUV-ish. You get a sporty spoiler, nice wraparound tail lamps, and a very busy rear bumper which shouts crossover rather than SUV. But the T-Roc's party piece is the roof area. No matter what color you choose, the roof remains black, and that treatment extends down to the A-pillar. Overall, we just love how the T-Roc looks. Stepping into the T-Roc's cabin, this is a familiar place to be, and I mean that in a good way. This is a typically Volkswagen cabin, and you see plenty of bits borrowed from the more expensive and bigger Tiguan. So you have no fancy colors in here, but just some classic dark shades on a mostly straight dash. The large 10.25-inch touchscreen takes center stage, but we also like the champagne gold finish around it. The quality of materials is extremely good, and we particularly like how the buttons and the dials work with a solid feel. What is lacking though is the use of soft touch materials on the dash and the doors, which would have added more premiumness to the cabin. Now talking about the front seats, it's pretty comfortable. You've got support in all the right areas. You even get lumbar support. But for a car in this class, you don't get powered seats and you still have to adjust it manually. Also, this being a CBU, you get heated seats but not ventilation, which in our hot and humid conditions is a real bummer. Getting into the back bench, the T-Roc makes its compact SUV dimensions quite apparent. Even with the front seats set according to my height, legroom isn't in abundance as you see in most SUVs. It's just about enough to be comfortable. Headroom thankfully isn't an issue thanks to the scooped out roof. Seating 3 abreast will also be a snug fit, and the T-Roc is at its comfortable best as a 4-seater. The T-Roc gets a boot space of 445 litres, which is good enough for a weekend's luggage. And the seats split fold as well should you want to move houses in it. Now talking about the equipment, the T-Roc comes loaded with all the bells and whistles. The 10.25-inch touchscreen infotainment system looks sharp and comes with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You also get dual zone climate control, electronic parking brake with auto hold, panoramic sunroof, 6 airbags, tire pressure monitoring system, heated mirrors and more. Being a CBU, the driver aids have been retained as well, like lane change assist and head-on collision warning. Now an SUV usually means a big torquey diesel engine up front, but the T-Roc breaks the norm here as well. Powering this car is a 1.5-litre TSI Evo petrol engine, and it's mated to a 7-speed DSG gearbox. So what you get is 150 bhp and 250 Newton meters of torque powering the front wheels. Unfortunately, the T-Roc does not get all-wheel drive. The engine feels extremely refined, and a SUV running without any diesel clatter feels odd at first. And it's not just smooth but punchy as well. The DSG gearbox is quick to respond and keeps the engine in the meat of the power band, so overtaking at any point is no issue at all. The direct injection turbo petrol has strong mid-range performance but isn't shy of revving all the way to 6500 RPM when pushed hard. Driven sedately, the engine also gets a cylinder deactivation feature for increasing fuel economy. Volkswagen claims a fuel efficiency of 15.15 km per litre, which is pretty good for a petrol SUV. Now let's talk about the ride quality. Again, this being a CBU, this is the European version, and there's always an underlying stiffness to the ride. At low speeds, one can feel the really bumpy sections, but as speeds build up, so does the bump absorption. The T-Roc can really take plenty of our pothole stuff with relative ease. What also impresses is the overall stability of the T-Roc. The car feels absolutely planted at higher speeds, and even when taking on the twisties, there's barely any body roll. The steering may not be a chatterbox, but is direct enough to have a lot of fun. If you love to drive, you will enjoy the T-Roc. So the T-Roc does not come with all the regular traits of an SUV. Does that make it any less of a car than it's supposed to be? Absolutely not. The T-Roc shines in plenty of other departments like its suave looks, long list of equipments, feel-good factor, and an exceptional driving experience. So if you're looking for these traits in your next car and don't mind the average space or the lack of a diesel engine, the T-Roc comes highly recommended.